Oh, no, no, no.
That is Kamala Harris's campaign managers watching her do this press run right now. Oh, no. Oh, no. Because it's just bad news after bad news after bad news, right? Bombed interview after bombed interview after bombed interview. And I want to show you guys something. Okay? Do you guys remember when Uncle Trump said these words?
That if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes.
I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. I think Trump was right once again. Listen, I don't know how Trump has all of this information. I mean, it sounds wild sometimes when he says some of this stuff, right? But most of the time he is actually correct. As a matter of fact, I can't think of a time where he was incorrect. And I think he was correct once again, because Biden came out and recently said some things, and I'm just going to play the clip and then I'll say what I want to say. Check it out.
There have obviously been a number of crises that the country has been facing over the past several days, with the hurricane, with the port strike, with the situation in the Middle East. Can you talk about how your vice president, who is running for the presidency, has worked on these crises and what role she has played over the past several days?
Well, I'm in constant contact with her. She's aware we're singing from the same song sheet. She helped pass all the laws that are being employed now. She was a major player in everything we've done, including passage of legislation which we were told we could never pass. And so she's been, and her staff is interlocked with mine in terms of all the things we're doing.
There have obviously been a number of crises.
So you heard him say there that her and her staff is interlocked with his, and that him and Kamala are singing the same tune or singing from the same song sheet, I think were his exact words. Well, in this election, most people want change. Most people want something different, and most people see Trump as that something that is different, right? Because everything is terrible, right? Grocery prices, I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Gas prices, insane. Crime, even though they try to tell us that crime is down. I told you guys about how some of the larger cities that have a lot of crime no longer report their crime statistics. But if you actually take a look at the data from the police offices that are in some of these cities, you'll see that crime is not actually down. That's just the narrative that Democrats, which is something that I'm always jealous about with Democrats. Democrats are very strategic in the way that they move and the way that they do things, and they always move in unison. And that's one thing that kind of annoys me about Republicans. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So it seems like Trump was right when he said that he actually hates her. Because if you're trying to help Kamala win, you wouldn't say, hey, we're in lockstep with one another, when America wants change. America wants something different, right? You wouldn't come out and say that. But also, another thing is, I believe Kamala's tanking her own campaign. And I have a sneaky suspicion as to why that is. But I admit it's probably a far-fetched one. But I want you guys to hear this because, like I said, she's doing a whole press run. She went on the Sex podcast, and then she went on 60 Minutes. I think she did a Howard Stern interview. She did an interview on The View. Yeah, I'm telling you, like she's on like the press run like no other, which says a lot. It says that those internal polls, like I've been telling you guys, they are not good. They are not good. Her basement strategy that she's been trying to run with, it ain't working. But I want to play this CNN clip because she went on The View and said something quite interesting that I don't think a candidate who actually wants to win would say. Check it out.
I want to get to what Priscilla was talking about, in that one of the questions that Kamala Harris was asked was about how she differentiates herself. Is there any daylight, effectively, between what she would do and what the Biden-Harris administration did? Let's watch part of the answer.
We're obviously two different people, and we have a lot of shared life experiences. For example, the way we feel about our family and our parents and so on. But we're also different people, and I will bring those sensibilities to how I lead.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
Molly, what do you make of that?
I'm surprised, frankly, that she doesn't have more to say about this, given that she and her campaign know that this is one of the main questions that voters have about her. And one of the main things she's been trying to establish as part of her candidacy is the idea that she would represent a break from the past 4 years, and to not be able to come up with something to say in that moment. She continues to not be particularly nimble on her feet in a lot of these interviews, and this is a very obvious question that gave her an opportunity, frankly, to differentiate herself in a way that would have made news, that would have answered, I think, the curiosity of a lot of voters who want to know how she would lead differently. And she's not very specific in laying that out, and she can't point to a decision she would have made differently, which, in an electorate that thinks that doesn't like the way this administration has led, and that doesn't like the track that the country is on, that may not be a very satisfactory answer.
I mean, it's a delicate dance, because it's not as if she's coming in. It's not as if she just fell out of a coconut tree. She's been part of this administration as the vice president for 4 years now. She did later talk about the fact that she would put a Republican in her cabinet, which she first told me over the summer, and then she said, "Oh, that's something that's different." She sort of added it later.
Sure. This has been the central sort of point of tension when it comes to the Harris campaign. You are framing yourself as a change candidate, but you also represent incumbency. You were a vice president for the past 4 years, and often saying that you were the last one in the room as well when President Biden would make a decision. So it's tough to detach yourself from a president that, consistently in the polls has been unpopular with the public as well. When it comes to the policy platforms that the vice president has proposed, thus far, it's very much, it's similar with some differences in scale and also the way that she describes them. For example, the child tax credit, a bit, more sprawling as well. And when it comes to tone, you see some differences on foreign policy. I reported as well that at times she was saying behind closed doors in the White House that she didn't want to, that she didn't necessarily agree with the way President Biden described foreign policy as autocracy versus democracy, because some American allies, not all are democracies. She more so wanted to go with saying this was a matter of international law. She obviously, it's been reported, has also pushed to have more empathy for Palestinian civilians when it comes to Israel and Gaza. But thus far, the policy platforms are very similar. So this will continue to be the challenge. How do you represent yourself as a change candidate when your policy platform is so similar to the person in office?
And let's go back to what Priscilla was reporting, which I should have started the conversation with, forgive me. The home health care aspect of this. Somewhere Bernie Sanders is, dancing in his office or wherever he is, because expanding Medicare to take care of basic needs, real needs of people in American society right now, particularly the sandwich generation, is a big and important thing for a lot of voters. And she addressed that, and she addressed it in a way that her campaign believes is relatable to people who are really desperate to figure out a way to take care of their parents, their kids, in between.
So you heard that there, and you heard CNN try to spin things back into Kamala's favor. But the big story is you can't label yourself as a change candidate when all of your policies are basically the same as Biden's, and you come out and not only do you say, yeah, I was the last person in the room, I was the tie-breaking vote, but you also say, no, I wouldn't do anything different. Huh? Like this is almost like unbelievable at this point. Like, it's like we're living in a simulation. There's no way she's legitimately trying to win and saying stuff like that. Like, There's no way. I'm so confused by this. It's just what? You're legitimately trying to win, and you're trying to frame it as if you're a change candidate, but you're admitting that you're not a change candidate with all of your words and answers. Like, I don't know. I'm so lost. I'm so lost.
She is running on the slogan of a new way forward. And she said today, we're going to stay on the same path, which is, I think everyone would admit, not a popular path. I mean, Biden has put some handcuffs on her. I mean, he has gone out last week and said, she helped me pass every law. She was part of every decision. I mean, he's making it difficult for her to get any separation. And then she has also, in the last few days, said Biden is totally with it, totally vouched for his mental acuity, and today says, yeah, I can't really think of anything that I would have done differently. This must be very confusing for American voters who must be thinking, then why are you running? Why isn't he running? If he's up to it and you wouldn't change anything, then why is Joe Biden not in this race right now? I thought, but who goes on The View and gets outsmarted, by the way? I mean, this was a total disaster for her today. I think even some of the friendly, non-traditional interviews have not turned out that well, but her contact with the mainstream media, I mean, the 60 Minutes interview, you know, on issue after issue, I think did not really help her campaign. The immigration answers did not help her campaign, you know, answering the question 3 times about whether they made the right decisions on the immigration changes that let the flood of people into the country. So I think the reason they're shying away from it is because often her rhetoric doesn't survive contact with the mainstream media. She is.
Hey, I'm loving Scott Jennings right now, man. He's completely on point. That's why I played that clip. 1,000% on point. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I'm so confused. He was spot on. He was like, this must be confusing to the voters. Yeah, I'm confused. I mean, I wasn't voting for her anyway, right? I would never support Kamala anyway. But still, like, if I'm sitting here confused, then I know most people in America are just like, wait, what? You're saying you represent change, but then when you're asked questions, your answers don't represent change. Your answers are, no, I'm going to keep it the same. And Joe Biden is making it even tougher for her by saying, hey, yeah, we're singing the same tune. So, yeah, maybe Trump was right. Biden doesn't like that woman. Because he seems to be tanking her as well. And he also had another moment, which I'll talk about that in another video, where he does, Biden specifically, Biden does the exact same thing that he did in that clip that I showed you guys earlier in this video. He tanked her again. So stay tuned. Peace and love. I'm out.